Hey, how are you today? This is Josh Patrick, and you're with Michelle Thompson, and we're at Cracking the Cash Flow Code. Thanks a lot. This is our first recording for 2021, although we won't be seeing this or you won't be hearing this until February. And I'm really excited to have Michelle with us today. Michelle is going to help us understand two things. She's going to help us understand why delegation is so important, and then why you need to be considering virtual assistants, and specifically virtual assistants who are based in the Philippines to work for you. So let's bring Michelle on. We'll start the show. Hey, Michelle, how are you today?
Hey, Josh. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Sorry about the dumbest introductions in the world, but that's my stock and trade. So there we are. At any rate, let's start off talking about two of my favorite things that I love to talk about. And number one is delegation, because if you can't be a delegator, you can't grow a business. So, what's so important from delegation from your point of view?
Yeah. This is something that I had a really hard time with because I had worked so hard to build my business, right? I didn't want to hand it off to anybody because it was my baby, and I felt like nobody could do it as good as I could. And so it was difficult for me to hand off tasks because I wanted them to do it, exactly as I did it, and I wanted it to be perfect. And ironically, you can do that. And there are very easy ways that you can hand things off and have it done exactly as you would do it. But I would say the biggest thing that you're losing by not delegating is I'm going to go into two things, and they'll seem completely different, but I'll bring them back together, is lost revenue from lost brain capacity. And what that means is if you're spending time in your business wearing all the hats, right, you're not in your zone of genius. For instance, let's say you work on cars, right? And that's your thing. You love working on cars until you decide, hey, that's great. Let's open a business. You had no idea that you were going to be working on cars, doing payroll, managing your books, doing your marketing, the 15,000 things that we have to do. But what you're really good at is fixing cars. And so what happens is our brain allows us to function in our zone of genius for only so long, right? It's almost like a computer, right? You've got so much RAM and then you need to reset. And if you're spending your brain power on the things that don't push the needle forward in your business, tasks that should easily be handed off to somebody else, social media, bookkeeping, admin things, these are all things that we should be getting off of our plate right away, because we're not able to actually be in our zone of genius where we're actually bringing money into the business. And so if it's a one-man shop and you don't hand anything off, it's going to be very, very difficult, if not impossible, to scale and be successful.
Well, I can give you some other reasons why delegation is so important. Among them is, if you don't learn to be a delegator, your business will be stuck at no more than 25 employees.
Oh, easily.
You as a business owner can manage 13, 14 people pretty easily by yourself, but you get much past that. And if you don't learn to delegate, your business is going to be stuck and it won't grow very much, which for some people is fine. The other side of delegation, and we like to talk about this a lot, which is, what is the value of your time per hour?
Yep.
And
that's what I was getting at, but just in a backwards way. Yeah.
Well, it's really pretty important to understand that if your time is worth, let's say, $500 an hour or $400 an hour, which is about what everyone's time is worth, at least when they're working with customers, and you're doing stuff you could hire somebody for $15 or $20 or $25 an hour, and with VAs, it can often be a lot less than that, then you're really punishing yourself. You're putting yourself in a position where you can't do the work properly. And the other thing is, if you ever want to sell your business and you have not become an expert delegator where you've made yourself operationally irrelevant, you don't have a business that's sellable. So those are all really important things to be thinking about as we go about that. So you mentioned something really interesting is that when you started to delegate, you weren't very good at it.
Yeah, I was horrible at it.
Yeah.
And I think we all are, and we don't
Well,
mean to be. We think we're great bosses, but we expect people to be mind readers, right? And I think that's just because we make hundreds of micro decisions without even realizing it. And so that's honestly probably the biggest part of my job is to get business owners to slow down. And if I can get them to just record a video of them doing a task and talk me through it, like for something as simple as, let's talk about picking a graphic for social media, right? Um, Everybody has their own brand board, right? And we have the look and feel of what we want. But when you're looking at pictures, like let's say, you're going through Photoshop or something like that, there are probably, you may look at 20 pictures and automatically say no, and it might be the same color and as your brand board. And the reason is you have this preconceived idea of what you want it to look like, but we haven't actually downloaded that into anybody else. It's just stuff that we make automatically. And that's what I was doing. I was just saying, well, here, go make the graphic, right? And then I'd get something back. And funny story. So one of the first guys that I hired as a graphic designer, I gave him my brand board, but I didn't give him any guidelines as far as pictures. And so I got back a purple font in the way that I wanted. And then I had this like business guy with there was like this, I swear to you, this true story. He had this cloud over his head and he was standing like this in a suit and like it was just absolutely horrible. And he thought like that was like power, right? He thought he did this great thing and found this awesome picture. And I just looked at it and went, oh my gosh, this is horrible. And it was my fault because I didn't communicate well. So it's a skill that we learn, but if we can learn it, it makes your life amazing because you can literally walk away from your business and things keep running. Like you said before, built to sell, right? It's like that book. You need to have
yeah,
those processes
that's
in place.
this guy named John Warlow who wrote that book.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, well, you build a business not to sell. You build a business so it's economically sustainable. And when you build a business that's economically sustainable, you've automatically built a business that's built to sell. And I disagree with John on building a business with the intention of selling it. You build because the sale is a result of running a great business for a long time, in my opinion.
yeah,
And I have found when people build businesses to sell, they don't get nearly the satisfaction out of running their business while they're building it as the folks who build the business because they want to have a great business and serve the public in a great way.
sure.
If you build a sale-ready company or you build a bit, which is the same thing as built to sell, but if you build a sustainable company, you're not going to want to sell it because you're going to have too much fun. You're going to be making too much money. And why would you ever want to stop that?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I'd be shocked if I ever sold my company because it's a blast. I have so much fun.
Well, at some point it might be, when you're 80 or 85 years old, it might be time to stop.
True, true.
You know,
Yeah.
one of the things I talk about with people a lot these days is what I call my 100-year project. And a 100-year project has two pieces to it. One is, how would you run your company differently today if you expected it to be here 100 years from now?
Mm.
Which is one question. The other question is, how will you live your life with the expectation that you're going to live to 100 years old? And, Michelle, you look pretty young. So my guess is there's a good chance that you're in that cohort that is going to see life expectancy at 100 years old.
Yeah. So I just had my 41st birthday. So I'm kind of not a baby boomer and I'm not a millennial. So I'm kind of like stuck in that middle. But yeah, I bet we probably will see 100 because I mean technology and health care is just growing so quickly. In fact, I'm a testament to that, right? I don't know if you know my backstory, but 5 years ago I had a stroke and I should have passed away. I should have died. But because of the medical miracles that we have today, I'm still here, and it took 2 or 3 years to get back to being able to talk and walk and all that good fun stuff. But yeah, I think, that's interesting because when I had the stroke, when I started building the business, I built it. So my background's a little bit different than everybody else. So I have a what's called factor five, which is a hereditary blood disorder. That means that I have blood clots floating around in my body all the time. So at any point in time, one could go to my brain or my lungs. So when we figured out that I had this, the doctors basically said, excuse me, Michelle, you're a ticking time bomb. It's just a matter of when, not if. And so I had to kind of look at myself in the mirror and be like, okay, so if I'm not here 2 years from now, what do I want to transfer? And so I got really lucky in that most people, think that they're going to be here forever. I know that I have a very finite time here. And so I built my business so that it would last 100 years from now. And I am a huge stickler on processes and systems to be able to remove myself completely, because if I don't, when that day comes, knock on wood, hopefully it's a long time from now, but it would all fall apart. And I don't want that. I didn't want that to be my legacy. I didn't want to leave something half done. And so when I started building this, it was absolutely with the intention that 100 years from now, it'll keep running exactly as it is because of the systems that we set up in place.
Well, you've touched on 2 of 4 things it takes to create an economically and personally sustainable business, which is how to become operationally irrelevant, which is you have to learn how to delegate. The most important skill a business owner will ever learn is that skill. And the second is, if you don't systematize your business, you're never going to have a great business, because your employees don't have any idea what they need to do for excellence, and your customers don't know what to expect on a regular basis. And that only comes with systems. I like to use Disney as my favorite system example. That is the most systematized operation. I'm talking about the park
Yeah.
operation, not Pixar or the movies, but their park operations are unbelievably systematized. And when you go to the park, you know exactly what to expect, and you get it every time you go there.
Yeah.
And they do that so much better than their competitors. It's unbelievable.
They have a system just so they don't have mosquitoes. Like, they've gone to that finite amount of detail. So when you walk into Disneyland, like, Walt Disney wanted it that you're walking into a kingdom, right? He doesn't want you to see anything else, which was amazing. It was amazing to study that.
Yeah, I took a course with Disney on quality management probably 30 years ago. And the example they used for how they systematize was their parking lot.
Interesting.
A- And in Orlando, the Disney World operation, people will, go and they'll park their car and they'll go into the park and they come back and they have no idea where they put their car. So Disney has people driving around the parking lot looking for people who look like they're obviously lost. They then will ask you, what hotel are you at and what time did you leave? They will be able to bring you where your car is parked because they monitor all that. It's one of the reasons they
Wow.
charge you $5 or $7 a park, is that if you lose your car, there will be someone there to help you find your car because they put a system together around that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, well, that's what great companies do, is they think about things from their customer's point of view. What are the problems their customers might have, and what is the solution they bring to the party to solve that? So one of the solutions that we bring to the party in our own businesses is virtual assistants. I'm a huge fan of VAs. I've been using one. Well, actually, I've got VAs with me now, been with me for 8 years, part-time, which I find, people say VAs don't last long. That's just not true. If you treat them like a regular employee and
Yep.
you treat your VAs well, they stick around for quite a while.
Yep.
So at any rate, why don't you tell us why you think VAs are really important and how you would go about finding a good one to work for you?
Yeah. So for me, um, I like I told you, I needed to, because of the stroke, I needed to remove myself 100% from the business. And so for me, I had to find employees, and for me, those employees were going to be virtual assistants. And so literally the entire business runs off of virtual assistants, and I have, different departments for each one, right? There's a video editor, there's a graphic designer, there's a writer, there's, pick what task needs done, lead generation. And I have a very specific system. And so I actually go to the Philippines. So all of my staff is in the Philippines, and they're there for a couple of reasons. The US dollar to Filipino peso conversion is very favorable. And so I'm able to pay them about 4 times what would be minimum wage. So equivalent to about $45 an hour in the United States, and still make it incredibly workable, for the business numbers. But then the second thing is they're very, very good at English because that is their secondary language. And so if you were to fly to the Philippines and you go inside of a hospital or a court or the police station or any public building, you're going to find that they speak English. And so they also are hugely immersed in the American culture. So you'll find that the shows that we're watching at night, they're watching on TV too. And so it was a very easy transition for them to know our slang, to know, be able to understand what we were talking about, things like that. But in addition to that, I absolutely love their culture. And so their culture is, they want to serve first and really do an incredible job. And that is a huge sense of pride for them. They want to be part of the team and know that they're making a difference. And if they're making a difference, that brings them pride and fulfillment. And so with my team, I definitely develop a family culture. And so my employees stick around for a very long time because I treat them very, very well. And I think, there's no secret. Like I go to, when I'm looking for a new employee, I go to onlinejobs.ph, right? That's it's just a job board like Monster or Career Builder here in the United States. There's nothing magical about that. What happens is inside of online jobs, I have 4 very distinct tests that I put each person through. And when I do that, it makes the diamonds rise to the top of
What
of
are the 4 tests that you put people through?
Yeah. So the very first thing I do is I have a very detailed job description. And in the second to last paragraph, I'm going to put a hidden word. And I'm going to put right in the middle of the paragraph, put this word in the subject line. And so it's very common for me if I'm trying to hire out of the Philippines, if I have a job up for 3 days, I may legitimately have 200 applications that have come in. And so a very easy way to filter through those is we look at the subject line and did they put yellow tiger in the subject line? If they didn't, then I know that they're not paying attention to detail, or they're just sending me a template that they're sending everybody else. And so that's a very quick way for me to figure out, hey, do they pay attention to detail? Because when you have a virtual worker, a lot of times they have to, be able to work on their own and things like that. And so I need somebody who's going to pay attention to detail. So that's my first one right there. My second one is I'm going to ask them, after they pass my hidden tiger test, I'm going to ask them some completely off the wall questions that have nothing to do with work. So I'm going to ask them, hey, what's your favorite movie? What type of food do you like? What'd you do this past weekend? And the reason for that has nothing to do with whether I care about what they had for dinner last night. The point of the test is, I want to know, can they write English really well? And the reason they're off the wall questions is because a lot of times in the Philippines, they will have hired someone to create a template for them and write perfect English for the normal business answers. And so I have to break that mold and ask them unusual questions that they wouldn't have hired somebody to already answer. But then the second reason is I'm already starting to build a relationship with them. So what I'm doing is I'm getting to know them a little bit better so that when I get on a interview, because out of those 200 applicants, I'm only going to do a video interview with 2. But in those 2, now I know, okay, first of all, one of the questions that I have is, what is your requested pay rate? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see what they put down in that email versus what they're asking for in online jobs. And is there a discrepancy there? If there is a discrepancy, are they trying to take advantage of me? Do they think they can get one over on me? But then I also have a whole bunch of information to start talking to them when I have a video interview, so I can ask them, hey, what was it like playing basketball with the kids last weekend? Did you guys have fun with, New Year's? What did you do? And it just kind of breaks the ice a little bit because Filipinos tend to be very, very shy, especially on camera. And they want the job so bad that they're like terrified in front of the camera. And so you have to kind of break the ice a little bit with them. So that's a great way to do that. Then the third thing I'm going to do is before I ever get on a video interview with them is I'm going to take my top 3 to 4 candidates, and I'm actually going to give them a paid test. And the reason it's a paid test is, unfortunately, there are some, in my opinion, relatively unethical people that will go out and they'll put a job board out, and their ultimate goal is to get an article written. And so they'll go and find 5 people and they'll say, well, this is just a test to see if you're going to make it. And they'll have them write the whole article, never pay them. And then there really never was a job to begin with. And that happens all the time. So by me telling them, hey, this is a paid test, I'm willing to pay you, for up to 3 hours for you to do this. That tells them that A, there really is a real job, and B, I'm not a crappy boss. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, without any training, I'm going to throw them right in the fire. I'm going to give them some basic guidelines, and then I want to see who rises to the top. And my top 2, I'm going to do a video interview. And on that video interview, at that point, I know they can do the work. I know that they're good. What I'm looking for is culture fit. And I want to know how are they going to fit in with my team? Are they going to blend? Are they going to cause problems? What are they, a go-getter? And also I want to, look at their face and see, how interested they are in the job. And so those are the 4 steps that I use to put somebody through. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, Michelle, that's ridiculous overkill. But I can tell you what, when I find a diamond in the rough, they stay with me for years and years and years. So it's worth it.
What you're doing is absolutely correct, in my opinion. And unfortunately, Michelle, we are out of time. But you did manage in this episode to hit 3 out of 4, the drivers of a personally and economically sustainable business. The only one you missed was recurring revenue. So congratulations, you win a prize. I'm not sure what that is, but you win a prize.
Yay.
So Michelle, I'm sure people are going to want to find you and get more information about the world of VAs. And how would they go about doing that?
Yeah.
Not
So
everybody's watching us on Facebook right now.
Yeah. So the easiest thing to do is you can send me an email. So it's Michelle, Michelle, at awesomeoutsourcing.com, all one word. Or you can find us on Facebook. I hang out on Facebook a lot, or LinkedIn. So any one of those 3 places, and I'll be happy to get in touch with you.
Cool. I have 2 things I need to have you do. One is really important, and one is just going to be interesting for you to get. But the really important thing is, please, 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 please go to wherever you listen to your podcast and rate and review this show. And please give us an honest rating review. If you hate it, tell us you hate it. If you love it, tell us you love it. And the second thing is I've got an infographic on how to do innovation as a system. And this is something that people think innovation just comes out of the netherworld without any reason or rhyme. Well, that's not true. Innovation can be a systematized process internally and externally. I put together an infographic on it. It's really easy to get. You go to www.sustainablebusiness.co, that's .co, not .com, /innovation, and you'll get our free infographic. So this is Josh Patrick. We're with Michelle Thompson. You're at Cracking the Cash Flow Code. Thanks a lot for stopping by. I hope to see you back here really soon.